So, welcome to Bitesize Edge, and another one of our series of podcasts talking to people that I refer to as Edgeites, because they've been to join us at some part of their NLP journey. And I am absolutely delighted that today I have the pleasure and privilege to talk to the fabulous Dr. Ron. Dr. Ron, you can only ever be known now as Dr. Ron. You're no longer Ron, you're Dr. Ron. So, Dr. Ron, welcome.
Welcome, and thank you so much, Pip, for inviting me on this podcast. It's great to catch up again. And an Edgeite. I'm an Edgeite.
You're an Edgeite. I think that's a good thing. Who knows?
I think so. It works for me too. Thank you.
So, Ron, I'd like to kick off really by when I think about you. There are many things I think about. When I think about you, I always think about the book The Artist Way. Which is a book that I've recommended to so many people and was recommended to me ages ago. And then bizarrely, when I met you, you talked about it being so significant. Would you mind kind of sharing a bit about that for us?
Oh my God. Yeah. Just for your listeners, Pip, all I ever wanted to be when I was a kid was an artist and a rock star. You know the story behind that. Almost on top of the pops once, but art has always been something I've always wanted to do, but always put on the back burner, so to speak, when life happens. And my story behind The Artist's Way was I love art books. And every time I would go into a bookshop, Ottakar's or Waterstones or whatever, I'd go to the art books and I'd pick them up and flick through the pretty pictures I've seen 1,000 times, but I kept picking this horrible, dull, brown book up every time and looking through and being disappointed there was no pictures in and putting it back. And I did it several times. Seriously, this is 4 or 5 times I've done this. And I was in a bookshop in my hometown of Sunderland with my then wife, Karina. And she was looking at some books, cookery books or something, and here I am at the art shelf holding The Artist's Way again by Julia Cameron. And I said, I can't believe it, I've picked this bloody book up again. And she says, look, just buy it. It's screaming at you to buy it, And at this particular time, I was in the corporate world. I was working for a very, very large gases company. Probably at the time it was either the first or second biggest company in the world, gases company in the world, depending on what had been sold overnight on the markets. And I was having a bit of a hard time with it, to be honest. I was working away from home, so I was down in my digs with my book, The Artist's Way, and I decided to go through the process. And typical of me, I'll read ahead. Didn't pay a lot of attention to the exercises, or I just rushed to the end and never got the benefit of it until I got to the end. And when I read the last bit, I thought, oh my God, I think this might actually work. I think I'll revisit this and start actually doing the exercises. There's a part of the book, as you're aware, I'm sure, that where you write your morning pages. You started journal. I'd never journaled before. So I started journaling, but I was very enthusiastic about the process. And as I started to do it, oh my God, the resistance that started to come up. I think Julia calls them blurbs or something. And it got to the point where they became quite extreme. And I remember, and I thought, no, I'm not giving up. And the most extreme moment was when I was sitting in my bed. It was in Vidal Sassoon's old house, by the way, where I had my digs.
Yeah,
just by
similarity with your hair, obviously,
or lack of, yes. And I was writing my journal that morning, and oh my God, the abuse I was writing about myself and the negative beliefs. I was in tears. Literally, I was in tears. The words I was using didn't seem to appear to be mine. Where they were coming from, I don't know. And in my head, I heard, look, that's enough. He's had enough. And seriously, it was like a bit of a spiritual moment. It really was. And I thought, that's it. I've got to change. It's got to change. And that morning when I got up and walked to work, oh my God, it was amazing experience. I think it was the first time I'd really experienced bliss.
Right.
With the environment. I felt as if I could hear every bird. My sight was better. I could see things. I was appreciating the tiny little things. And this was before I started to understand fully what all that sort of attitude of gratitude meant and everything.
Yeah.
But I was really experiencing it. And I decided, okay, another element of the exercise is to have an artist's date. I don't know if you're familiar with this one, Pip. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to have an artist's date at lunchtime. So I went into Lech with the town I was living in at the time, and went into the art shop, bought myself a little sketchbook. Still got it. There's only one picture in it, and a pencil. And I went into the local history museum, and something I would never do, which was like do art in front of anybody. But there was a big party of school kids in this, and I was taken by a little stuffed kestrel, a little bird of prey, hovering over this little mouse, stuffed mouse as well, it wasn't real. And I drew it. I just drew it in my little sketchbook, and I just felt at one with who I really am.
Wow.
And that was the start of the journey. So I completed the book. I still do my morning pages to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not an easy journey either. It's not an easy journey to acknowledge who we are inside and to embrace that creativity. When the real life people we work with, organizations we engage with, are banging on the door, screaming for attention, emailing you, phoning you, all of that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a constant battle. But yeah, absolutely pivotal book in my development, and that started a massive journey. And if I fast forwarded, I think it might have been about 10 years, and I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Pat Divley, and I noticed he just got a certificate from this company called Edge. He just done his NLP practitioner, and I was thinking about doing that myself. And so I contacted yourself, and we had a lovely conversation, and that was it. Then started the next big phase of the journey, which has led up to this little conversation today.
Oh, God, Pat, I remember Pat. He's doing incredibly well, isn't he?
Oh my God, yes, he's a brilliant guy, lovely man.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I find really interesting is all of that happened way back when initially, as the Artist's Way, the book and everything. Since I've known you, you've been working, obviously, as a lecturer at the university, and you've set up your own coaching, Dr. Ron Lawson International. I always want to do the Thunderbirds theme tune to that. I'll hold back for now. And you're doing that as well, and you're working with a number of individuals and organisations. Yes, am I right?
You certainly are, Pip.
And the thing I see the most of, the thing that absolutely blows me away, is your posts on Facebook and the like, with all the work that you're doing, again, within the world of art. Even if you don't, do you call it work? I don't know. But the stuff that you're doing, the paintings. So you're working with Jeanette at the Horses Trust.
Yes, the artist in residence there.
And that incredible sculpture that you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, it all happened when I came. It was when I came back from Wales, Pip. Just to backtrack a little bit in relation to the Ron Lawson International coaching business. That's grown quite well. Thank you very much.
Good.
So when I came back from Wales, I'm actually training up a member of staff now. She's Eloise. She's a fantastic, fully qualified dietitian, and she's inspirational in her own right. But she loves the sort of weight management stuff. So I was finding myself doing a lot of weight management, virtual gastric bands and stuff, but not really my bag. I have to, if I'm absolutely honest. I like helping people with big life-changing stories. Mainly about career or performance or what have you. So I'm turning Eloise up to do the hypnosis and NLP around weight management, that type of thing. So when I got back from Wales, she was saying, we had a training session on the Saturday morning, and she says, "How did it go?" And I went, "Oh my God, you'll not believe it. I've decided. I've made a big decision. I'm going to put art first." And she says, "Oh wow, well, what type of art?" And I says, "Well, I paint, I sculpt. I haven't done any sculpture for yonks, but I absolutely adore it." And she says, "Oh, you need to speak to this guy. He's setting up a bit of an artist community in Sunderland, which is my hometown. And you have to speak to Mark." Just speak to Mark. And I said, "Okay, I'll speak to Mark." So I contacted this guy, and he says, "Yeah, come down. I've got this studio in Norfolk Street I know well." And he's a potter, but he's converted a huge Victorian house into different studios. And you know, when you get the impression you've been somewhere before, Pip.
Yeah.
And I went in, and we got on like a house on fire. And he said, "Oh, we've got this basement studio available. Do you want to come down and have a look?" And I went down and said, "Mark, I've been here before." You know, I used to rehearse. It smells a lot better now. I used to rehearse in there when I was a young drummer. Yeah. So it's like it's gone full circle. And he says, "What do you want to take?" And I think, well, I'm just paying rent on a new office for the business. My head was saying, "Ron, really? No. You know, cut your cloth, the suit. You can't take on this," because the rent was even more than my office. It was a beautiful studio, and but my heart was saying, the inner artist child, as Julia Cameron would say, was screaming at me to do it. So I made the decision. I spoke to Margaret, my dear wife, and she says, "Well, what are you asking me for? You know, just do it." And I went back and says, "Okay, I'll do it." Not knowing, it's this not knowing and letting go of the outcome, isn't it? It's brilliantly enlightening. And I says, "I don't know how I'm going to pay for it, but I'm going to take it." And he went, "Oh, fantastic. What are you going to do?" And I went, "Well, I'll do me painting, and I'm thinking about doing me sculpture," because he's a potter himself.
Right.
He went, "Oh, what type of sculpture do you do?" I says, "Well, actually, I'm a sheet metal worker by trade. I used to do quite a bit of metal sculpture." And I showed him some images of some of the big sculptures I've done in the past. He went, "Oh my God, I've just won a commission to do this big miner in steel, and I haven't got a clue how to do it. Would you do it?" And I said, "Well, it depends, Mark." You know, the businessman in me was, "Well, how much?" And it just happened to be the full rent for the whole year on. How weird's that?
Yeah, how does that work? That's just
well, I don't know how it works. I don't care.
It doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter.
I just embrace it. So hence, that's where we are with that. It's just about to be erected now. Yeah. I've had to hold back on the pictures and images now until it's erected.
Put together.
But there's a few other projects in the mix in relation to public art. So which is dead exciting, but I can't speak about them yet because I've got bids in with the Arts Council and the Heritage Fund. So so that is driving me now. Not that I've give up on the other stuff in relation to the university. I think that's one of the things I need to let go of. Being there, done that. That's maybe a chapter that needs to close as the next chapter opens. Yeah. Because I need to create some space for more of my artwork and more of the training around NLP, in particular NLP coaching, Pip. I know the last course I did with you was the NLP coaching, which was absolutely amazing. And surprisingly, one of the exercises we did on that course, the bit of a timeline.
The walk the line.
Walk the line. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you can remember. You remember I was at the far end of my line thinking, okay, this is scary. But guess what? It's all coming to fruition now.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. But I've designed, in relation to the university, I've designed the Masters in Coaching and Mentoring for the University of Cumbria, which we've got the second cohort coming through now, and they're just doing brilliantly. But what I've done, I've incorporated the NLP coaching with my research around storytelling, artifact creation, and liminality, having space to change with our identity. and it's having a profound effect. So the university started to use it more and more, and we're working with some really, really big organizations in the area. And we've got senior managers, I'll not mention the name of the organization, but just might be the biggest nuclear power station in the area. And we've got them creating artifacts.
Wow.
Actually doing artwork
to
help them understand who they are and how they can tell their story using an artistic medium of their choice. And all of this came, I'm still referring back to the artist way.
Yeah. Incredible that was just so monumentous and so key in propelling you forward in the way that you are, and the way your journey's panning out.
Yeah.
Tell me, from an NLP perspective, with all of these parts of your journey, although it's still very fluid and there's clearly a narrative running through, albeit, as you said, one chapter closes, another one commences, and everything else sits around it. From an NLP perspective, what are the key aspects of that as a toolkit of a way of being that you think have been the most powerful aspects for you?
I think clearly the most powerful technique, I think it was the biggest shift in me in the earlier days of the practitioner course, was the parts integration. Where we have those. On one hand, I have, this is what I want to do, and on the other hand, I've got, there's a part of me that's holding me back. It's probably the first tool in my NLP toolkit that comes out, because it's so obvious, isn't it? And
God, isn't it?
Oh my God. And I think as a convincer as well, when people experience that, because it's quite an emotional, it's quite a kinesthetic experience. Your hands physically move together, and you get a huge rush as you integrate the two parts as they're both working together, probably for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so powerful. People go, oh my God, I want some more of this.
Yeah.
So as I did. Yeah.
When I was doing my prac course many years ago, and I rocked up there with my work head on, my corporate world work head on, and I sat there and I listened to this guy say to our trainer, you're going to do parts integration, you're going to have two little people sitting on your hands, they're both going to eventually agree, this is me paraphrasing clearly, they're both going to agree on something, and then you're going to have this whole experience. And I remember sitting, listening to him going, are you for real? Are you for real? Because I had gone in there very much in a conscious way, thinking I'm going to get a toolkit, tick, 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 that I can use in my corporate arena. And within a very short space of time, I kind of went, oh my gosh, this is so much bigger. And there were still times, such as parts integration, when it was explained, where I felt myself being initially resistant. And that resistance came from a place of potentially fear of the unknown, fear of change, and fear of kind of acceptance of this is where I am. And then, of course, when it starts, and it feels then so remarkably obvious that this conflict that you play out will have some form of representation, some sort of personality, some sort of persona, that you're kind of blown away with the whole thing, aren't you? And it was on like non-surgical facelift, really, powerful, really powerful stuff. So I got it at that moment in time. It was also around almost a sense of release. This is my opportunity now to allow myself to be me.
Absolutely.
And then it all kind of starts, doesn't it?
It does. So that's the most influential and most used.
So the people you work with in a coaching kind of environment, what are there any themes with their presenting challenges that they rock up and see you about?
Well, what I tend to find, Pip, is the presenting problem is what the come with is very rarely what the problem is. There's a deeper, darker problem story behind that. I think, what did you used to call it? The mother or the daddy problem?
The granddaddy.
The granddaddy problem.
The granddaddy of all problems.
Yeah, and so the first from my model of coaching, my model of NLP coaching is we first need to touch their experience, because until you help them unpack that story and find the problem story, you're not going to get anywhere with the coaching, really. So it's finding the problem story. And then once we found the problem story and built up the necessary rapport, I mean, this is another great thing about NLP. There's a side that is fantastic for coaches, is that rapport building. The skills, the sleight of mouth, all of the reframing, all of those skills to help people, help build rapport with your client is so important, and you can speed up the process, because a lot of clients, when they arrive, perhaps even from the corporate world, come with preconceptions of what coaching is, what all this airy-fairy, new agey NLP stuff might be, and they come and position themselves. Of, okay, well, you're not hypnotizing me for a start, you know, and you're not going to do anything.
After I hear that, it's quite funny.
And none of that NLP nonsense, you know. But the NLP starts the moment we start to speak to them. We can't help it now. It becomes part of what we do and how we do it. But it helps us get to that problem story. And once we've got the problem story, that's, for me, that's when the NLP tools and techniques come really into play, because it helps us to help them come to terms and reflect on what the problem story is and what the better options could be, you know, which is all part of coaching. You know, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's the gaps, and how can we plug those gaps? And some of those gaps, just purely in the coaching world, could be just about going out to find some resources, to get a skill, to get some knowledge, or what have you. But where NLP really comes into play with coaching is some things that are already the problems inside us. It's a limiting belief, a limiting decisions of the past. And we've got a box full of tools taken from CBT, from psychoanalysis, come from all really good, reputable disciplines that we can utilize through the NLP frame to help them reflect and become critically reflective of what they don't want and what they do want. And for me, then, that's almost the end of the coaching. But the start of the next big phase, which is to take them from that, to let go of that old story, to go through a creative process of helping them to create that new story of who they really want to be. And they know it, they can feel it, because it resonates. When you've got the story right, oh my God, you feel that element of bliss, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then to finalize it, this is why NLP, particularly the way the American Board of NLP teaches it, is you know, there's a heavy influence of hypnosis, you know, threaded right the way through it. So we can use some of the tools like timeline therapy to help them with some of their older issues, to the point where they've created a new story, they're ready to go, they're all excited. We can give them some coaching tools and techniques to decide what they're actually, the actions they need to take, but then to absolutely reinforce at the end with some good, solid, positive suggestions, you know, and delivered in a way that's going to get past their critical faculty, get deep inside them, and helps them to access the resources that they really need, which is what they've already got, Pip.
Yeah, absolutely, and potentially just lost touch with. So and it's re-engaging, isn't it? And almost kind of supercharging them again.
Oh my God, yes.
That place, yeah. So when NLP's been around for some time, and it develops and it moves forward. And one of the challenges, the early doors of NLP, was that there wasn't any scientific proof to support it. Whereas now there's a lot of work, isn't there, in the world of neuroplasticity, and more and more proof coming through. What sort of things have you done to explore that?
Oh my God. I've got several students at the moment are working on neuroplasticity in the coaching environment. It's not a taboo subject, Pip, as it used to be, but it's still early doors in relation to changing the academic viewpoint. From my perspective, does that matter? No, I know what works, and it will come eventually.
Yeah.
But I think what I've done more of is looked to the techniques, and you can see where Grinder and Bandler got the techniques from, where Tad got his techniques from, and when you look at ego states, transactional analysis, and all of these areas which have been proven. Yeah. So I tend to, if someone's questioning or challenging, I'll say, well, NLP is my way of putting it across is NLP is a portfolio of tools and techniques taken from areas of mind work, if you like, or change work that does work. Clinical hypnosis works. We know it does. We know resource therapy and ego state therapy works, because it helps people reformat how they see themselves. It helps them to change that story. So actually the scientific proof is already there, but sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper to find out where the technique actually gets back to. Where its originality, where it was originally born and where it was developed in the first place, back to the Jungian theory and all of the rest of it. And the academics love that, but NLP practitioners just, well, it works.
Yes.
We're our own worst enemy, really.
Trust the process, measure it by the end result.
Absolutely.
Often isn't, but for someone who can be very tangible and evidence driven, initially that can be quite a challenge to digest until they experience it, and then it is that moment to go, oh my gosh, that's just quite phenomenal. I feel something shifted, something's changed, I feel different.
I do feel, Pip, that there will be a bit of a sea change. I can sense it coming. I'm banging the drum in the academic world. I'm still a special advisor for the European Mental and Coaching Council. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I've just been reviewing some books, academic books that are up for publishing, and NLP is starting to feature more and more, particular NLP coaching. So I think it's going to change. It's just like if we went back 10 years, Pip, and you said to somebody in the corporate world, okay, let's all sit round and let's do a bit of meditation. You remember what the response would have been?
I can't repeat it right now, Ron.
Absolutely, but it was very cleverly rebranded. So let's do a bit of mindfulness, shall we?
Exactly.
It's mainstream now.
Yeah. Oh gosh, isn't it just? Yeah. And also in education, in many ways, I see it in infant schools and junior schools also, where they've got mindfulness happens as before the school day starts and things like that. You think, oh gosh, if we could integrate more NLP within that at that early age, how incredibly powerful would that be? Incredibly powerful.
The only thing we can control, Pip, is, and philosophers have worked with this for millennia, the only things we can control is our response to the external world that's happening to us, the thoughts and images we hold in our mind, and the stories we create from those. That's absolutely all we can control. And NLP, for me, is a collection of tools and techniques that enable us to actually do it. I probably do more NLP on myself these days.
Joe, I was listening to, I was out this morning, I've been listening to Happy Place, which is a podcast by Fern Cotton. And today, the one I was listening to, she was interviewing Ruby Wax.
Right.
And Ruby Wax, who's obviously just, a few years ago studied psychology, mindfulness, and CBT at Oxford. And to kind of change away, it was a really different Ruby Wax to listen to. It's quite extraordinary. But she was talking to Fern Cotton about AI and robots being on the scene and things like this in probably about 5 years' time. And it was really interesting because Fern Cotton just said, I don't want it. I don't want any of that in my life. And Ruby Wax said, it will happen. The only thing you control is how you choose to respond and react to it.
Mm.
And you could hear Claire go, as she initially had a moment going, yeah, but I still don't want it. And then she laughed. No, you're absolutely right, because I do control that. And it's so true, isn't it? In so many areas of our lives, there are tools and facilities and things that are available to us. It's about our choice to acknowledge, engage, and shift and change as we choose.
Absolutely. And it's how we can do it for ourselves, but it's how we can help people to do that. And I find certainly my practice is moved more to more of a coaching approach.
Yeah.
Coaching again is flavour of the month in the sort of leadership world. People are moving more and more away from sending people on MBA courses within organisations to actually send them away on a coaching course. Because it's more impactful.
Yeah.
Then when you add NLP to coaching,
very powerful.
Very, very powerful.
So, Ron, you're a busy man. Oh, sorry, gosh, Dr. Ron, you're a busy man. So, to wrap this up, one, thank you very much. But what would be your words of wisdom, advice to anyone who's considering starting their NLP journey?
What's happening there, Pip? Oh, I've lost you. I've lost your audio.
I muted myself because Sydney, the director of morale, was joining in.
All right.
Carry on.
Okay. I would suggest speak to a practitioner. Seriously, speak to a practitioner, a good one, and or someone who's been through the process. At least they might not be practicing, but they've been. A lot of people just do the practitioner's course to get out of it what changes can affect them.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of starting the NLP journey, is you become the subject of the change whilst you're going through the training, which is a massive, massive benefit. Just as I did when I spoke to Pat Divley, I wanted the lowdown and I wanted a recommendation. I don't want to listen to somebody who says they're good. I want to go to somebody who someone else says they're good. Yeah, particularly in those early stages where it's, I felt as if I was open to it, but there was still a little bit of a skeptic inside of me, and that was put to bed when I spoke to you, Pip, and I can work with this lady, and certainly we did, didn't we?
Yeah, certainly have. It's been a fun journey. So, Ron, where can people find you? So, anyone who might want to work with you, either in the coaching capacity or potentially is really interested in your artwork and everything else you're doing, here's an opportunity to plug what you do. So, where can people find you?
Well, I have a website, which is www.ronlawsoninternational.com. Some lovely free stuff on that to help people write their next chapter. They'll see from the sort of feel of my website. It's all about storytelling and changing your story. I have a little ebook out at the moment, The Incredible Coach Approach to Achieving Massive Success. It's almost a freebie it's 99 pence on Amazon. I just wanted to have something out there for people to access and get some themselves. In relation to my artwork, you can visit my Facebook site, Ron Lawson Fine Art, and see how, or Instagram, again, Ron Lawson Fine Art, and see how things are progressing with the minor sculpture and all the little projects that I have ongoing. And it looks like I'm going to be having an exhibition later on. I think it's going to be December now.
Okay.
At the Horse Trust. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'll certainly be coming to see you because it's down your way.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Yeah. Dr. Ron, thank you so much. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
For those of you who are listening, we'd love you to subscribe. You can find us on iTunes and on Spotify, Bitesize Edge. And if you want to find out more about NLP, by all means, visit our website, which is www.edgenlp.co.uk, and follow us across most of the social media platforms. Dr. Ron, thank you so much. It's been lovely talking to you. Look
And
forward
you.
to you personally when you get yourself down here, or we get up there, maybe,
Absolutely.
and catching up very soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Pip.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye.